Hello students, let us take a look at the short and long answers from the chapter Food ICSE Environmental Science. What do you understand by sustainable agriculture? So sustainable agriculture is defined as successful management of resources for agriculture to satisfy the changing human needs without changing the quality of the environment and exploiting natural resources. Sustainable agriculture involves techniques like mixed cropping, integrated pest management, crop selection, etc. Next question. What is the need for sustainable agriculture? So, sustainable agriculture is required to increase production of food to fulfill the food demand of ever-growing population without exploiting our natural resources. What is integrated pest management, that is IPM? And IPM is a broad-based approach that integrates practices for economic control of pest. The careful consideration of all available pest control techniques and integration of appropriate measures that discourage the development of pest population to minimize the risk to human health and the environment. And in a more general sense, IPM is the coordinated management of all pest populations in the agricultural or forest environment. What does the term genetically modified organism, that is GMO? So GMO are the living organisms which have been genetically engineered or whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. So they include microorganisms such as bacteria, insects, plants, fishes and mammals. Name any two techniques by which new crop strains are produced. So two techniques are combination breeding and hybrid varieties. In combination breeding, so it is a transfer of one or more characters into a single variety from other varieties. And hybrid varieties, in most self-pollinated crops, first generation is more vigorous or productive or higher yield than the parent. Expand the following, that is you have to write the full form of HYV and GMO. High yielding varieties and GMOs full form genetically modified organism. Next question, list two environmental risk of using HYV, that is high yielding varieties of seeds in agriculture. And there are environmental risks associated with HYV. First is they require more water, more pesticides and more fertilizers for their survival. Second risk is HYV crops are highly susceptible. Next question is state any two advantages of agroforestry. First advantage, agroforestry reduces pressure on the forest for obtaining timber and non-timber forest products. In agroforestry, the trees help in checking soil erosion by wind. What is Baranaja farming? So Baranaja, basically it is a combination or a group of 12 grains and it is a conventional blended cultivating system over the dry lands of Garhwal rural area in Uttarakhand. In Baranaja farming, there are intercropping of 12 or more crops like grains, lentils, vegetables, creepers, root vegetables. They are developed in this cropping patterns and all the seeds are sowed together on the same field in the monsoon season. What are biofertilizers? And you have to write one or two examples. So biofertilizers are the living microorganisms that are used to enhance, to increase nutrient availability to the plants, and biofertilizers also help plants by nitrogen fixing, solubilizing phosphorus and synthesizing growth promoting hormones. Some examples of biofertilizers are rhizobium, azotobacter, blue-green algae. What is sewage sludge? Sewage sludge is the semi-solid leftover material which is remained after the treatment of wastewater from various sources like sewage treatment plants or municipal based water treatment plants. State any two advantages of conservation tillage. First advantage, reduces soil erosion up to 60 to 90% and is suitable for erosion prone area, that is erosion sensitive areas. Second, reduces the water requirement. Crop residue reduces the evaporation loss from the soil. What do you understand by mixed cropping? So mixed cropping is the technique where we grow two or more crops simultaneously on the same field. It is also known as multiple cropping. Mixed cropping is also known as multiple cropping, and generally the one line of main crop is alternated by leguminous crop. In mixed cropping, leguminous crop is very important. It play a very important role. Example, growing arhar, urad, til along with millets is an example of mixed cropping. Define monoculture. Monoculture or solely crop production farms are high yield agricultural practices of growing a single crop year after year on the same land in the absence of rotation through other crops. Corn, soybean, wheat and to some degree rice are the most common crops grown with monoculture techniques. What are the benefits of organic manure? So benefits are: organic manure provides all the nutrients required by the plant in a small quantity. Organic manure improves the structure and texture of soil. Organic manure increases water holding capacity of the soil. It also minimizes the loss of moisture. It helps in maintaining carbon and nitrogen ratio in the soil and also helps in increasing soil fertility and productivity. What are gene banks? So gene banks are a type of biorepository which preserve genetic material. It is a place where scientists store DNA information from plants and animals to show that they can use it to reintroduce desired genes back into a gene pool when required. It is a type of ex situ conservation where plants genetic material is preserved at minus 196 degrees Celsius in liquid nitrogen. What is food aid? Food assistance or food aid is a broader term that refers to both in-kind food commodities, that is food aid, as well as market-based activities that ultimately combat hunger and malnutrition. Food aid in times of natural calamities like flood, earthquake is always a welcome gesture. By depending on food aid by an overpopulated, hunger-stricken, poor nation is not appreciated. They should find a solution to become self-sufficient. Now these are the long answers. What are the advantages and disadvantages of integrated pest management, IPM? Advantages are: IPM manages pest damage by the most economical means, least possible hazard to people and property using IPM. Second advantage is least possible damage to the environment through IPM. Third advantage, IPM can be applied to both agricultural and non-agricultural settings such as home, garden and workplace. Then monitoring and identification removes the possibility that pesticides will be used when they are not really needed. Next advantage, control methods can be very effective and cost efficient, and IPM does not kill non-targeted organisms. And the next advantage, reduces health problems of the workers. Now there are disadvantages also. IPM systems are extremely complex and require a higher level of understanding to utilize. Next disadvantage, an IPM system of pest control involves a lot more time and is sometimes more costly than the traditional method of spraying pesticides to eliminate pests, and needs constant monitoring by a trained person. Next question, what are genetically modified crops? Discuss the various environmental risks associated with them. So genetically modified crops are the living organisms which have been genetically engineered by the insertion of a foreign gene using genetically engineering techniques. Living organisms may be bacteria, yeast, insects, plants, fish and mammals. Genetic modification involves the mutation, insertion or the deletion of genes. When genes are inserted, they usually come from a different species whose desired characters are inserted, and such genes is known as transgene. So transgenesis, which is the process of insertion of transgene, has been used to develop new varieties of food such as fruits and vegetables. GMO, there are three types of risk associated, that is environmental hazards, economic concern and human health. Environmental risk associated with GM crops. Outcrossing refers to the transfer of engineered genes to conventional cultivated plants by means of wind, insect pollination or other transfer method. GM foods in general might create unpredicted toxins, antibiotic resistant diseases and nutritional problems. The potential risk posed to non-target organisms, and the next risk is leakage of GM proteins into soil can also disturb the ecosystem. Next question, what is trickle drip irrigation? State any two advantages of such an irrigation system. Trickle drip irrigation, this method of irrigation has been developed to conserve water, and it is also referred as micro irrigation. Trickle drip irrigation is a controlled method of irrigation where water is slowly provided to a very specific area close to the roots of the plant by a network of drip emitters. Tiny nozzles are laid along the ground and linked to a feeder hose that provide a slow and steady flow of water. A control box regulates the water pressure. Need for trickle drip irrigation needed in the area where a water source is limited. Then a plant grown is sensitive to soil moisture. It is needed when the plant is sensitive to soil moisture, and it is also needed for vegetables and fruit farms and growth of decorative plants. Mechanism of trickle drip irrigation. So this type of irrigation involves laying of pipes just near the surface of roots, and these pipes have holes where water is dripped drop by drop near the roots. All pipes are connected to a main source of water. Advantages: it is a controlled method of irrigation that saves gallons of water per minute. Flow of water is too slow that it is easily absorbed into the ground. It reduces wastage of water through runoff as in the case of normal irrigation. No chance of waterlogging. Weeds cannot absorb water, hence no weed growth. Operational cost is less. Fertilizers can be used with maximum efficiency, and energy cost is reduced. Next question, describe any 5 strategies that make agriculture sustainable. So sustainable agriculture is defined as a successful management of resources for agriculture to satisfy the changing human needs without changing the quality of the environment and exploiting natural resources. Sustainable agriculture involves techniques like mixed cropping, integrated pest management system, crop selection, etc. And such techniques are known as regenerative farming techniques, and these are the techniques which focus strongly on rebuilding of soil and restoring ecosystem. Now there are 5 strategies that make agriculture sustainable. First strategy is intercropping farming technique, in which 2 or more crops are grown together and each must have adequate space to maximize cooperation and minimize competition between the crops. The goal of intercropping is to produce a greater yield on a given piece of land. Examples of intercropping strategies are planting a deep rooted crop with the shallow rooted crop, or planting a tall crop with a shorter crop. And examples are mustard is planted with wheat in northern India. Second is crop rotation. It is a practice of growing a series of different crops in the same area in sequential seasons. Usually the main crop is replaced by a leguminous crop which has the ability of fixing nitrogen. For example, corn and soybean, rice and oats, etc. Benefits of crop rotation: farmers can keep their fields under continuous production, reduced need for artificial fertilizers, prevents soil erosion, adds nutrients to the soil, controls pest by breaking the pest cycle. Next technique is agroforestry. Planting trees along the agricultural field increases the tree cover. Agroforestry is a community forestry where agriculture is practiced along with tree plantation and animal husbandry. Agroforestry is a farming system that integrates crop, land or livestock with trees and shrub. Farmers adopt agroforestry because they want to increase their economic stability and to improve the management of natural resources. Now, benefits of agroforestry: proper utilization of farm resources. Next is the trees help in checking soil erosion by wind. The agriculture waste and trees provide fodder to livestock and they in turn provide manure. Next technique is polyvarietal cultivation, and which is essentially have more than one variety of the same crop grown on farming land site. Polyvarietal cultivation can be compared to alternate cropping, and the benefits are increases in total land productivity per unit of land area, judicial use of resources like land, labor and agricultural inputs. It provides crop insurance against failure. Next technique is polyculture, and it is the practice of growing multiple crops on one farming site. That is the simultaneous cultivation or growth of two or more compatible plants or crops in a single area. Benefits are polyculture reduces the plant susceptibility to disease, decreases the incidence of diseases and reduces the applications of pesticides. Because of polyculture, local biodiversity increases, less chance of crop failure as there are multiple crop plantation, and less depletion of soil nutrients as every plant has different nutritional requirement. Next question is, state the importance of soil conservation and mention some of the traditional soil conservation measures still practiced by farmers in different parts of the world. So soil is one of the most important resources to combat climate change. Like the ocean, soil can absorb large amount of carbon dioxide, which helps mitigate the impact of carbon dioxide emission on the planet. So soil is made up of minerals, organic matter, tiny plants and animal organisms, air, water. Plants and animals that grow and die in and on the soil are broken down by microorganisms, transformed into organic matter and mixed with the soil. Importance of soil conservation. Thousands of life forms reproduce in the soil, most of them invisible to the human eye. Each of the substance that make up the soil is important, so the proper balance of its different components through its sustainable management is essential for its preservation. Food security. Healthy soils ensure food security, improve livelihood and reduce forced migration. Biodiversity preservation. Soils are home to most of our planet's biodiversity. Greenhouse gases. Soil help combat and adapt to climate change. Cleaner water. Soils are key to clean water supplies. Medicines. Soil are important for human health. Now coming to the traditional soil conservation measures. Conservation tillage farming. So soil is conserved by reducing erosion, wind erosion as well as water erosion. It is an important part of a sustainable agriculture system. In other words, conservation tillage is any method of soil cultivation that leaves the previous year's crop residue on fields before and after planting the next crop to reduce soil erosion and runoff. So conservation tillage is grouped into three types. No-till, where leaves the soil undisturbed from harvest to planting. The surface residues of such a system are of critical importance for soil and water conservation. Second type is ridge till. It involves planting into a seabed prepared on ridges. Ridge till speed up drainage and soil warm up. Mulch till is any other tillage system that leaves at least 1/3 of the soil surface covered with crop residue. The effectiveness of the mulch till system in reducing erosion depends on surface roughness, amount of residue and tillage direction. Next question is, some countries have excess food while some face a scarcity. Explain any two causes of such food imbalance. Discuss any three measures that can be taken to remove such imbalance. Global food imbalance. Economic inequality among nations and other factors have contributed to a global food system whereby 1 million people are hungry, that are lacking access to sufficient amount of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. Another billion suffer from hidden hunger, that is lacking crucial vitamins and minerals. Issues such as whether household get enough food, how it is distributed within the household, and whether that food fulfills the nutritional needs of all members of the household, and food security is clearly linked to human health. The reason behind the food shortage or food imbalance in some countries are unemployment, low income, untreated diseases, lack of capital, unsuccessful agriculture, and desertification. Measures that can be taken to remove food imbalance or how to achieve food security. Food aid in general is about providing food and related assistance to tackle hunger, either in emergency situation or help with deeper, longer term hunger alleviation, and achieve food security where people do not have to live on hunger or fear of
in
starvation.
agricultural
Rapid
activities.
economic growth in
IPM
the agriculture
manages
sector,
pest
that
damage
is by
the most
boosting
economical
agriculture
means,
science and technology.
least possible
Slower
hazard
population
to
growth,
people and property
securing
using
poverty
IPM.
rights and access to finance, enhancing human capital through educating and through education and improved health. Fixing the global food imbalance is a difficult task. Food aid given either as actual food item or as cash to buy food can play a critical role in reducing hunger. What is integrated pest management? State its importance in agriculture activities. So IPM is a broad based approach that integrates practices for economic control of pest. The careful consideration of all available pest control techniques and integration of appropriate measures that discourage the development of pest population to minimize the risk to human health and the environment. In a more general sense, IPM is the coordinated management of all pest population in the agriculture or forest environment.
Least possible damage to the environment through IPM. IPM reduces the application of pesticides. IPM can be applied to both agriculture and non-agricultural settings such as home, garden and workplace. Monitoring and identification removes the possibility that pesticides will be used when they are not really needed, or that the wrong kind of pesticides will be used through the use of IPM. Control methods can be very effective and cost effective using IPM. IPM does not kill non-target organisms and it also reduces health problems of the worker. IPM programs use current comprehensive information on the life cycle of pests and their interaction with the environment, and IPM takes advantages of all appropriate pest management options.